pretty early when you're looking to make a change. And, Tyler Reddick, who went to the championship race last year for us, we signed him 2 years before his deal was even up. And so he ended up, the team he was with got pissed off, kicked him out early. So we actually got him a year early, but we had to pay them for that.
Interesting. All right, guys, Denny Hamlin out here in Vegas. Got a race tomorrow. Thanks for stopping in, man.
Yeah, appreciate you having me.
Yeah, how are things in your world so far this year?
It's going good. We're just a couple races in, but it's early in the season. We got 38 weeks. This is week 5, so we got quite a bit of time left. And usually I don't hit my stride typically till the summer months of the season.
That's a long season. That might be the longest of any pro sport, right?
It is actually, yeah. So we go from essentially Valentine's Day. Actually, before that now, February 1st to the first week of November. So essentially we get most of November off, December off, and January, and then we're back at it.
That's crazy.
And when I say off, that's a very loose term because we still have tons of obligations, photo shoots and media shoots and sponsorship shoots that we got to do in the off season. So yeah, 3 months off, that's it. We're racing for 9 months.
That's nuts. That's a lot of traveling. Do you ever get burnt out?
Absolutely. I mean, this is my 20th year, 20th year doing this. But I still love it because I can still win. And I've said many times, when I decide to retire, it's when I know that I have to travel somewhere and I know I can't win. If I know I can't win, I'm out.
Have you ever thought about retirement?
Oh yeah. I think about it all the time. I'm more paranoid about when is that light switch going to go off where I don't have the skill set that it takes to compete against the young guys anymore, right? I still feel at my age, and results would show, that I am still on top of my game. But I know that one day Father Time's undefeated, and I'm not going to be able to do it as good. And I worry about waking up and that being the day.
Yeah. Yeah, because a big thing in your sport is reaction time, right?
Correct.
And as you age, your brain slows down.
Yes.
Have you noticed that you've lost a little step?
From reaction standpoint, I don't think so. I think I'm pretty sharp still on that. I think one of the things that forces NASCAR drivers out is vision at times, but my vision is still 2010. I mean,
wow.
Same as it's been ever since I was a kid.
I wish I had that.
It's really, really good. I still have that. But I mean, I'm sure I'm slower than I was 10 years ago.
Yeah.
But it's not enough that's hindering me on the racetrack.
I never even thought about that vision being a factor for people aging out. That is interesting.
Yep.
Yeah, because I'm 2200. I'm legally blind. I'm like,
wow. Wow.
I'm thinking about LASIK, man. 2010
have
is
you ever
insane.
have you done it or
no,
thought about?
LASIK scares me, dude. Have you
It
looked
scares
into
a lot
that
of
procedure?
people. I know a lot of friends that I'm like, well, why don't you just get it? And they're just like, the fact that they're gonna laser and take off the skin of my eye, it scares me.
I'm gonna wait till some AI comes out or something.
I just figure by now though that certainly the doctors have all got this thing down to a science where the success rate's got to be.
Success rate is high, but then you hear stories of later on how they lose their eyesight again, 10, 20 years after. And then what are you going to do?
Irreparable?
Your vision keeps getting worse and worse, but then you can't keep lasering it off. So.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's not a permanent fix.
Yeah. So
because my mom got LASIK when she was my age and she's losing her vision again.
See, that's, me, I'm more looking up back issues. I have tremendous amount of back issues. Being in a race car I've been in, I've actually broke my spine in 2013 in a wreck.
Holy crap.
So I do more research on what can fix my back and, the things I need to do for that. So it's interesting to hear that I think it's very simple. Oh, you just get LASIK and it's fixed. And you're like, no, when you do real research, it's all kinds of things that you don't know. And I've had many doctors tell me when it comes to my back, they're like, yeah, we think we can fix it, but you're still racing. So do you want to take the 2% chance that your career's done? Wait until you're at least retired and then come in here and get some work done.
Yeah. Back pain's one of the most difficult pains to fix, I heard.
Yeah. It's been nagging for me. My discs are degenerative. So, a lot of the fluid out of the disc have dissipated. So It's just kind of bone on bone. And if you think about how we drive in a race car, we
Hey guys, shout out to today's sponsor, Kinsta. Running an online business is already a challenge. Your website hosting shouldn't make it harder, and I've been there, dealing with slow load times, confusing dashboards, and unreliable support. That's why I switched over to Kinsta, and it's been a game changer for my brand. Since moving to Kinsta, my site loads faster, runs smoother, and I don't have to stress about downtime. Their intuitive dashboard makes managing everything simple, and their 24/7 expert support means I always have real people whenever to help when I need it. Kinsta's built for performance with blazing fast speeds, enterprise-level security, and 37 global data centers to ensure your site reaches audiences quickly. They also handle free migrations, so switching is effortless, and if you ever get a traffic spike, Kinsta automatically scales to keep your site online when it matters most. I'm not the only one who trusts Kinsta. TripAdvisor, NASA, Indeed, and over 120,000 businesses rely on Kinsta for their WordPress hosting. So if you want hosting that works, just make the switch to Kinsta today. Get your first month free. They'll even handle the migration for you. Just visit kinsta.com/DSH to get started. That's KINSTA.com/DSH.
Imagine sitting in a seat, you pull the straps down so it essentially compresses your spine anyway. And then we're running on race cars that have very little suspension at all. So, the fastest way to make our cars go around the racetrack is to put them the lowest to the ground. Well, if it's low to the ground, the suspension has to be really, really rigid. And so it just constantly beats on your spine, and it has for 20 years, and it's taken its toll.
Jeez. So a lot of drivers probably struggle with back pain.
They do. Yeah. Most of the injuries you find with drivers are back pain and shoulder pain. Yeah. I see on social media at least 3 or 4 drivers getting like shoulder surgery every single year.
Holy crap. Have you had to get shoulder surgery?
I have. I've had 2 on the left side, 1 on the right side.
Yeah. Is surgery like a last resort for you? Are you trying to treat it naturally for the most part?
For the most part, yeah. But, I ran 2 seasons ago with my rotator cuff just kind of torn off the bone. I didn't realize it was that bad. We thought it was just going to be kind of a little cleanup, microscopic thing. And when he went in there in December, he said, you'll probably be a 2-week recovery and you're good. And it turned out to be a year. It was he opened me up and he was like, "What did you do since our last scan?" Like he's like destroyed it. So that's the biggest thing. It's like too, I think about when you talk about retirement, like how long can my body go? Like I'm really, really beaten up in a lot of places. So that's going to be a factor.
Yeah. Cause you see these pro athletes, they retire and then some of them can barely walk 10, 20 years after.
You'll see when I leave here and I stand up, it takes me like 20, 30 steps to like really get my gait back.
Holy crap. Is that bad already?
It's bad.
You haven't even retired yet.
No.
We got to get you some stem cells or something, man.
I know.
Dude. Yeah. Ronnie Coleman, like he can't even walk. It's sad, man.
Yeah. You see so many of these NBA players, right? And you can see like their bodies hunched forward.
Yeah.
Right. They kind of walk. It looks like one leg is like stiffer than the other. That's how I feel when I walk, is that on my right side, I can't bend as good as I can on my left, but it's because, the disc, I have issues on that side.
Yeah, basketball's tough on the knees.
No doubt.
I feel like
I've actually torn both ACLs in basketball.
Oh, really?
I love playing recreational basketball. So I have actually a league that I run out of my house. I have an indoor basketball court down in my basement.
That's sick.
We have 7 teams. We do a draft every year. We actually start our season this Thursday.
Wow.
But I tore both ACLs, one in 2010, one in 2014.
Yeah,
playing rec basketball.
So if you weren't racing, you'd be in the NBA.
No, I'm terrible. I mean, when I say I'm terrible, I'm average for a mid 40-year-old guy who likes to play rec ball. But in our draft, I mean, I'm a 4th rounder.
Okay.
So like I'm not. I used to be quite a bit higher, but all the injuries and getting older, like I'm not as good as I used to. I'm an outside shooter now.
Have you ever scored against MJ?
Good question. I don't think so. No. I went to a camp of his in Charlotte once. It was the crowd. It might have been one of those moments where the crowd asked him if he could still dunk, and he turned around and he did.
I think I've seen that video actually.
And so I went to a camp, but never played basketball with him.
That's a once in a lifetime experience.
Yeah,
going to play against him.
His passion is switched to racing now.
Really?
I mean, obviously, we started this race team with him 5 years ago, 2311 Racing, and he said many times that like this fills my bucket. we're
What's up, guys? Shout out to RX Sugar, one of my favorite snack brands. I'm about to try a flavor I've never had before, vanilla cream. Let's see what we got here. That's solid. I love vanilla. It's my favorite ice cream flavor. Definitely check them out, guys. RX Sugar.
basketball did for much of my life. The racing aspect and the competition and the cars is what his dad got him into it when he was a kid. His father used to take him and his brothers and sisters to NASCAR races when they were younger, and he said he just loved the sport and started watching it every Sunday, and that's essentially how we met.
That's cool.
Is I met him at a Charlotte Hornets game. I had courtside seats. I'm leaving to go to the restroom at halftime. He had his security guys come grab me. He said, "Hey, Michael would like to meet you." And from that point on, he got my number, started asking me all these questions about NASCAR. And I'm like, "What? Wait a minute. What? You watch NASCAR?" He's like, "Dude, I never miss. Every Sunday, I'm sitting in front of a TV watching NASCAR."
That's surreal, man.
Yeah.
You get to teach him some stuff about driving?
So yeah, he actually had one time where he wanted to get in the real simulator, right? Like he obviously has a passion for fast cars, right?
Yeah.
He drives all kinds of great cars, and but he wanted to get in the Toyota simulator that actually we drive to get ready to race in. So we're not allowed to test at any racetracks in real life anymore. So what we do is we took that to simulation, just like a flight simulator for a pilot or what have you. And he got in it, and he probably lasted 10 minutes. And he was like,
"It was that intense."
My eyes. He's like, "It's making me shake." Like, like it just. And they had to retrofit him to get in there in the first place, but they did, and he had a blast. But we took him to a pretty easy track, and he was like, "No, I got a newfound respect for what y'all do."
People don't know how hard it is unless they actually get out there on the track.
There's no question. I mean, there's no way a normal person could drive a NASCAR. First of all, not as fast as we can, but sustain the G's, the temperature, all that stuff. It would just be too much.
Yeah, I just found out the temperature right before this episode. I did not know it gets to 140 in that car.
Yeah, it can get on hot days upper 130s for sure, and it can sustain that for 3.5, 4 hours. So.
Which is insane.
It's just imagine going in a sauna, right? And it's all you can think about is trying to get out.
No, I mean,
we can't. We're in there for multiple hours. So hydration, of course, is the biggest thing for us every weekend.
Because I hit my red light sauna at 150 for like 30 minutes, and I am drenched in a pool of sweat. So 3 hours at 140, 130, 140, that's no joke.
It's just, I think, my body's just been so trained to do it now. That's why I say, if one of my friends wanted to get in a car, they last 10 minutes.
Yeah.
It's so hot. But I just think over the course of my life, my body has gotten used to being in that type of environment.
Early on, did you get lightheaded in that environment?
Yeah, I mean, it was tough when I first started, but the races were so much shorter now. So NASCAR races are probably the longest of stock car races, being 3.5 hours. But when you're coming up through the ranks, you're running 30, 40 lap races, not 300, 400 like we're running in NASCAR. So you kind of get eased into it by only being in there for 30 minutes or, 40 minutes. And then, and on and on. But it's a very interesting thing. What people see every Sunday is cars going around in circles.
Yeah.
What they have no idea is what makes that driver a little bit faster than that driver, or that car a little bit better than that car. And it's hundreds of people, tons of engineers. It's a huge undertaking, and the sport is way more technical than what it gets credit for.
Yeah. How much is it driver versus car like?
Good question. I think that's evolved over time. I believe that NASCAR was probably 60% car back in the day, 40% driver, because you used to be able to build trick cars. But over the last few years, they introduced what this called next gen car. It's essentially like a Lego set, right? Everyone has to buy this same Lego set. Now you can put it together any way you want, but we no longer can manufacture our own bodies or chassis or whatever. to save the team's money, they said, okay, here's the Lego set. Everyone has to buy it, and you can put it together any way you want, but everyone has to race the same car. So now the driver probably means a little bit more, just simply because we are all racing essentially the same cars, even though they may look different on the outside. You have a Ford, a Chevy, a Toyota. It's essentially the only difference is the bodies and the engine.
Wow, I didn't know they made that change.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting. Were you in favor of that change? What did you think about it?
Not really.
You like the customized vehicles?
I do. I think that the ingenuity, like letting these teams use their ingenuitive minds to create an advantage, is what makes F1 so, mesmerizing for me. It makes it, fascinating for me to see the technology of it and how it evolves and the aerodynamics, where to me, like when you just kind of buy a car out of a box, it's like, okay, it's cool. It looks cool, but what makes your car cooler than the next?
Yeah, it was more strategic back in the day. That's interesting. Which race do you think about the most?
From my career?
Yeah, from your career.
2010, Homestead, Miami, championship race. I'm leading the championship standings on my way to my very first title. And I let the pressure get to me. I let outside get to me too much. It's definitely the one race that I would take back, in the sense of like, I took myself too seriously in that moment. I felt like I was, only 4 years into my career.
Yeah.
And, I was racing against a guy, Jimmy Johnson, who had just won 3 or 4 championships in a row. It was down to me and him. And it's like, I was going to be the guy that unseats him. Right. And I just remember thinking, my style back then was that I used to have fun. I mean, there was definitely a weekend in my younger rookie career where if I raced in Phoenix, I would go to Vegas the night before the race.
You're a partier?
Yeah. And then I would come and race the next morning.
That's some Dennis Rodman stuff right
I
there.
mean, but it's what kept me loose. It's what kept me, loving it, right? But I just so then I get myself in this title hunt, and it's like, okay, no, I need to lock myself in my hotel room, and I need to concentrate on this and look at that. And I just took it way too seriously. And I didn't race loose. And instead I raced tight, and I made too many mistakes, and he won the title.
Damn. So mentally you just weren't there.
I just let the pressure of the situation in the moment get to me, which I just wish I had that to do all over again.
Wow. And that was 14 years ago.
Yeah.
You still think about it.
Yeah. I've had other opportunities to win a title, and it's been close, like really, really close. Comes down to the last race, the last restart. But that was the one where I thought my car was better than him. I thought I was better than him, especially in that moment. And I felt like I more gave it to him versus him winning it.
Yeah, chasing a title, it's
hard.
Only
hard.
one guy, right?
I mean, that's the difficult part about our sport. I think some of the great drivers that we've had in NASCAR, some of them have never won a title.
Yeah.
Myself included. I've got more wins than anyone
Crazy.
in NASCAR that hasn't won a title. But it doesn't mean that, I view myself or my career less than. When they talk about the greats of the sport, they're going to go down the list of the winners. Who won the most races? Titles, I get it, but there's been people that's won 10 races their whole career, 12 races, and won a title.
They just had
Does
a
that
great
make
year.
them better than me? And I've won mid-50s? I don't think so, but I think it's all up to whose opinions,
Yeah.
It is.
That's in every sport, though. There'll always be really great players like Charles Barkley in basketball.
That comes to mind, right? Is there's great ones, and there's, you can probably mention many NBA players that won 4 titles, and it's like,
They were role players.
Yeah,
They weren't the guy.
They weren't the guy, right? Where we are the guy in our sport, and it's not a 1 versus 1 sport. It's a 1 versus 35 every week. So I equate it to the PGA. If you can win 7% of the time, you're fucking Hall of Famer, right? But we're in a losing sport more than we're in a winning sport. So if you can win at that rate, like, you're going to win a lot.
Yeah. Statistically, 3% chance of winning with 36 guys, right?
Yeah, it's small. It is small. Now I'm with a really good team, and there's, there's 25, 30 good teams now.
Yeah.
And that's grown over time, but it's more difficult to win now than ever.
Damn. Yeah, I could see that. You playing a lot of golf these days?
I like to. I certainly don't have as much time to play golf as I used to. I used to, before I started the race team with Michael, my weeks, in between the Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I could do whatever I wanted. Now those days are designated to, I need to, I'm the owner of the team. So I do all the meetings, whether it be from sponsorship, from the social digital side of things, everything, competition. I have my hand in everything there. So I have to do that Tuesday through Thursday. And then, kind of the Monday and the weekend is all designated to being a driver itself. So it's a very interesting dynamic that I drive for one team and race against the team that I own.
That is interesting. Has that ever happened before to someone?
Dale Earnhardt was the last one that did it.
Okay.
That's been, 30 years ago almost.
Damn.
So, he owned his own team. He drove for Richard Childress Racing, and he owned DEI. And so this was never part of the plan for me to own a team before I actually retired. But COVID happened, and it ended up wiping out one of the teams. And I saw an opportunity there to hey, I can pick up the pieces here. As long as I can get the funding, I can get the right people to support me. This is something I can do now. And so we made it happen. And, sitting at home for 8 weeks straight, being locked in, I was like, man, if this is what retirement's like I can't golf every day.
Yeah.
so I need to come up with something else to do. And, I knew that my career, it's not over, but I can see the light at the end of the tunnel. I need to figure out what I'm going to do beyond just being a race car driver. And I was like, ownership is the right thing for me. So we started this team.
Do you prefer being an owner or driver right now?
It's driver for me just because, ever since I was a kid, I never dreamt to be a team owner. I dreamt to be a driver, right? And so all the goals that I want to accomplish essentially are right here in front of me. And I want to accomplish them for myself first because I've got decades as an owner to accomplish the other goals. I can win a championship as an owner, and that would be very, very gratifying because, if you ever watch your kids do anything, you're always more proud of them as you are your own accomplishments. So I'm more proud of the driver side of things now, and that's what I really want to accomplish. My perfect scenario every weekend is I win and my team cars finish 2, 3, 4. That would be the perfect scenario.
Pretty sweet.
It hasn't happened yet. We have finished 1, 2, but I think they've gotten the better of me more times than I've gotten the better of them head to head.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah. But, I'm a driver, so I know talent when I see it, and I've picked guys that I'm like, they're going to be good. And we signed them long term, and now they're kicking ass.
How tough is that process? Because they probably have other offers, right, from other teams.
They do. It's a free market, essentially. I mean, it's, there's free agency. These drivers have long-term contracts, but when they're essentially up. There's a handful of agents within NASCAR that know when the drivers are up. So you start shopping pretty early when you're looking to make a change. And, Tyler Reddick, who went to the championship race last year for us, we signed him 2 years before his deal was even up. And so he ended up, the team he was with got pissed off, kicked him out early. So we actually got him a year early, but we had to pay them for that.
Interesting. Now, you've had quite a few beefs and rivalries.
Yes.
Are you on speaking terms with any of these guys, or is the beef still there?
No, I mean, I do. I have drivers that I don't prefer racing with or against, but I mean, we race against each other, like I said, 38 weekends a year. So, and it's very difficult to keep a rivalry in NASCAR because we have what they call a motorhome lot. So many people don't stay at hotels. They have a bus at the racetrack. So then you got the girlfriends are hanging out and the families are hanging out and our kids hang out. And it's like, it's hard to keep it totally separate.
Yeah.
And you can be rivals on the racetrack, but then when you get back and you're like, oh, our kids are hanging out, it's like,
so it's just friendly competition.
Yes, but it's still everyone for themselves and everyone's still really selfish, as they should be.
Right. Yeah, because that was a problem, like labeling you as a dirty driver, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that I kind of got that because I got into run-ins with some of the more popular drivers
Yeah.
in NASCAR. One of the more, the fanfare guys, maybe their dad raced and then, their fan base went over to them. And then when I come in there and maybe I roughed them up, probably did, they don't like me. And so that's fine. And I've kind of taken on that heel,
The villain role.
the villain role within NASCAR over the last few years.
Yeah. You can monetize that, Jake Paul
I,
did it.
I have found that it's not hurt me in any kind of way.
Because attention
That's
is
for sure.
attention, right?
Yes, absolutely. It comes down to, who on social media is getting the most
Views.
not only views but kind of engagement.
Right.
There's some that are top of our sport performance wise, but they just don't move the needle in the social landscape. And so there's a balance there to be had, no doubt.
Yeah. No, that's a good point though. In every sport you see the top athletes are a little scared to speak out sometimes.
And it's even more so in our sport because they got a brand they're representing on their chest,
Sponsors.
right? And so when you have that, they don't want you to be too far one way, too far the other. They want you to be right in the middle of the road, right? And so they never really say anything controversial, which to each his own. But I'm at the point in my career where it's like I don't care.
Have you lost sponsors because of what you said before?
No, I definitely haven't.
That's good.
I had the best sponsor for the longest time. FedEx was my sponsor for 20 years. This is the first year that they're not on the car. We're really at the mercy in NASCAR of the chief marketing officers of these big companies, right? All it takes is for them to say, well, we want to take our media spend. We want to spend more money in Europe. We need to get bigger in Europe.
Right.
So we're going to spend our money there, right? And so that's the tough part about the NASCAR business model is that us teams are, we're essentially professional fundraisers, right? We got to find people to fund this thing that we're doing, right? Because, and it's kind of what we're fighting with NASCAR right now is that, can we get proper sharing to make it to where we're not so sponsorship dependent? Because I think NASCAR has a star problem, but it's because these guys are afraid to speak out because they know if they lose this, they're out. It doesn't matter how good they are.
That's such a good point though, because the UFC fighters are not scared to speak out because Dana White will let them say whatever.
I think that's really helped them in the star power aspect,
I think so too.
Right? I mean, it's really, the sport's great anyway, but I think that the fact that they let their athletes be themselves, say what they want, I mean, I just think that people resonate with that.
Yeah, because I'm not going to lie. When I was a kid, I remember hearing about NASCAR daily, like on ESPN and everything, and I would know the drivers. But these days, I feel like I don't hear about the drivers as much.
Right. It's become so commercialized. It really has. It is a different sport now. It's still thriving. I mean, any given weekend, it's the first or second most watched sport every single weekend.
Wow.
It has a core fan base that follows every single week. But yeah, we're definitely in a turning point where we've got to get this thing better for everyone and get this thing growing bigger. And I think globally is what's going to happen next.
I think so. I'd love to see more of you guys on podcasts and long form media. I don't see too many of them speaking out like you said.
Yeah, I think it's been something they have been apprehensive to do. I started my podcast just a few years ago, Actions Detrimental. And ever since then, the core fan base has followed us, because I was the first one to really do it. And now you're starting to see others go on podcasts, at least. No one's, not many are really starting one. But again, I think everyone's very, very worried about saying something that's sensitive and then getting in trouble.
Well, yeah, because you got fined for it, right?
I did. I've definitely gotten fined for things I've said on my podcast, but it's like.
So I could see why they're scared,
Yeah.
And that was a big fine, too. That wasn't like a little.
No, it's, most of it was just admitting that I crashed into somebody on purpose because he was getting on my nerves. He had gotten into me many times, and I was like, all right, screw it.
If I'm going down, I'm taking
you with me, right? And so, finally NASCAR was like, oh, that's probably pushing it.
Yeah. Do they bring deals to the teams, or are you like in charge of bringing every single deal?
Oh, that's a good one. I haven't been aware of. I can only speak for 2311 Racing.
Yeah.
But I don't think NASCAR has brought us any sponsorship. It's on us to go out and find these deals.
That's tough.
Which that's what makes it very difficult, and it's essentially what our team is fighting for, right? Is that we believe that there's enough money for everyone to be healthy,
right?
But since NASCAR is owned by a private family, they get to dictate the terms, or they have dictated the terms, and we finally are pushing back on that because we have to raise to run a race car, a NASCAR car is $18 million a year. That's just kind of that's per car.
That's insane.
And we have 3 cars that we run, so we have to come up with a dramatic amount of sponsorship just to break even every year. And again, it's like we're just paddling water every single year, hoping that these companies can continue to see value, which they have. We've got some great long-term partners that have seen value in the program. And so I think NASCAR maybe has brought some other teams some deals or whatnot, but not ours.
They're not
that I'm aware of.
Yeah, they're not obligated to do that, right?
No, they're not obligated to. And really it's tough because if NASCAR signs someone, say like their fuel partner or their tire partner, you can't go and get a competitor of theirs to sponsor your car. They lock you out of that category.
Wow.
And so when it comes to the most important things when it has to deal with cars is fuel and tires, we can't go get sponsorship.
You're running through tires, right?
Yeah, I mean I think we probably pay about $700,000 a year
in tires.
In tires,
crap.
yeah.
That's so crazy, man. And you're not allowed to get a sponsor for it because they have one?
Yeah, I mean, Goodyear's the official provider of NASCAR tires, but we have to purchase them. They're not given to us. We have to purchase them. But that's an agreement that they have with NASCAR itself. And again, it's a category where we couldn't go get a Michelin to sponsor our car.
You think the cars are going to shift towards electric over the next few years?
I think the NASCAR fans will be very apprehensive to embrace that. I think that NASCAR fans are the ones that have been around for a very long time, and even the new ones. And I think even consumers themselves in street cars like to hear sound.
100%.
I think that we've seen even in American culture itself that, man, there was a big push for electric, and it's starting to come back a little bit because, for whatever reason, maybe they're seeing that it's not saving them as much money as they thought. But I just think generally when people like to drive, they like to hear noise.
Yeah. Plus the refueling, that'd be hard. It takes so long to charge them. I don't know how that would work.
Yeah, it's certainly, you would think that it would shorten our races, right? And I think that NASCAR has always been very big on, hitting this 3.5 hour window.
Yeah.
I mean, can you make a car make ample amount of energy, 1,000 horsepower for 3.5 hours? I don't think so.
Not right now.
No.
My Tesla takes an hour to charge.
Yeah.
I have a supercharger.
Yeah. So it just would take, I think there's a place for it, but is it an exhibition series or something like that? But I think there's going to be a hard time convincing our race fans that, you see cars going fast, but you don't hear them going fast. Yeah. That's going to be a challenge.
How often are you engaging with the fans?
All the time. Yeah, I mean, all the time. I kind of had this rivalry with NASCAR fans, and it's just like where I've kind of leaned into the villain side of things. So I like to egg them on, especially when I win.
Yeah. Do they get to you ever, or are you kind of just numb to it?
I love it.
You love
it? When I go around for driver intro, so after they introduce us for our starting position, we get in a truck, we drive around the racetrack, and they kind of parade us in front of the fans.
Yeah.
And I mean, you'll know where I'm at on the racetrack you hear the booze just kind of moving all the way around. And so I love hearing the noise. Like the worst thing ever for an athlete is when they call your name and people just clap. That's horrible. Wow. Nobody ever wants that. Yeah. And that means you're irrelevant.
I think that's you internalizing it, because some people, if they get booed, it destroys them mentally, right?
Yeah.
It really eats at them.
I just think about how can I go back at them by winning and then saying something snark after the race.
Yeah. Well, the best success or the best way to prove people wrong is success, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, you don't even
That's what gets to them the most.
Yeah. Which one of your 54 wins is your favorite one?
I've had a lot of good ones, but I would say 2016 Daytona 500. That's my very first Daytona 500 win, and it was in the closest finish in NASCAR history for that race.
Wow.
And so how I won it was just amazing. You know, I fell back to 4th or 5th on the final lap and then found a way to weave through the cars that last lap to win by, you know, probably that much. That was special to me. And then, you know, my team allowed me to keep the car. So like I have this kind of my media room or kind of my guys' room, and I have my glass, my garage is all glassed in. I have my Daytona 500 winning cars sitting essentially kind of in my living room.
That's awesome, dude.
Yeah.
That's iconic. What's your favorite stage of the race? Beginning, middle, or end?
I like the end simply because like by the time you get to the end, young drivers, you know, sometimes have messed up. You know, they've taken themselves out.
Right.
And like you see who has managed the race the best by the time we get to the third stage of the race. So always the end. The track changes. I mean, people ask all the time, "Hey, don't you get bored? You're going in circles." And I said, the only way I can equate this is that every time I go down the straightaway, I'm trying to figure out how to take this corner faster than I just took the previous. And all the while, the track is getting hotter. It's getting more rubber laid down on it. And I'm having to adjust my line to optimize how my car makes that corner. And when I try a different line, I analyze it. Going down the next straightaway, I'll analyze it. Was that better? Was that worse? And I try to approach a different way when I go into the next corner. So we just do that over and over and over. And then when you're trying to overtake somebody, it's, you know, okay, now I got to run. They're running the line that I was running the fastest. How can I now make time in a different line to pass them? So it's constantly a chess game.
Yeah, because you don't have time to be bored. You're constantly thinking and being in the present moment.
I mean, it goes by really quick. In my seat, it just takes a long time when you're watching.
Right. Yeah, 500 laps, right?
If the track is small, it's 500 laps. You know, like out here in Vegas, you're looking at probably a 260 lap race because it's a 1.5-mile track.
Okay. Wow. That's nuts, man. Well, Denny, it's been awesome. What do you got next? Where can people find your podcast to keep up with you?
Yeah, it's on all, you know, platforms. Actions Detrimental with Denny Hamlin. It comes out every Monday afternoon, and what we try to do is get out of the race car, and if I can go straight in the studio and kind of download, that's what I'll do. But otherwise, I'll wake up early Monday morning, kind of talk about the race, how my race went, kind of analyze what you saw on TV, maybe what you didn't see on TV that I saw from the driver's seat, and we break that all down.
I love it, man. Check them out. We'll link below. Thanks for coming on. Thanks for watching, guys. See ya.
Appreciate it.